Live from Waldeboro.
Call the meeting to order.
And we'll call the budget committee meeting to order.
Motion to attendance, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam. Town manager. Oh, sorry. Citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments?
So, I just want to give John Daigle and Will Pratt a little bit of time to get here. They are together, delivering some fuel oil. I wanted to update you. One of the things we talked about last week was what is Max, our town planner, his total grant total? His total grant total is $2,022,000 that he has gotten. So, 100,000 was the, 1 million was the earmark, 500,000 for the demolition of 80 Gray, $150,000 for the Elm Street culvert, 116,000 for a dump truck, $25,000 for SCBA, $40,000 for recreation at Quarry Hill, 17,000 for the outdoor heritage fund, which was the kayak and the alewives, $8,000 in ask grants, $10,000 for the town forest, $22,000 for cameras and police equipment, the kind they wear, and also the cameras that we now have, $4,000 for the LED streetlights, $10,000 for the he helped Jean get it for the Historical Society at some point
That's a lot.
a while ago, but we were talking through his career here.
Yeah.
And about another $110,000 in various grants that we've used in and out. So I just wanted to let you know that total. So he is Maximilian worth 2 million. Or max 2 million. Or a million squared, I don't know that word. It is outstanding.
And apply for the grant for the fire department.
He has always applied for the fire truck grant, and he applied today for our HVAC grant for our HVAC. So he's always working, always thinking.
They would have somebody in that position. You have to do those grants.
I just wanted to let you know, because somebody had asked, and that was the answer to the question. One of the things that we could take up, and here they are.
Oh.
Capital, I guess, we'll go right into capital. 3 out of 4 of my department heads are here tonight. We have John Daigle, Public Works, Chief Booker, EMS, Chief Smelter, Fire Department. I know at the end of the meeting, at the last meeting, we were discussing fire department capital, so I didn't know if I wanted to continue that conversation or not, but we're here. And we will be moving along. So capital is part of your, where it says capital reserve. The big sheet of Val is over there.
Doesn't look like me.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, we went out to 2034 this year. And I'm gonna tell you why, because I honestly have no clue what anything is gonna cost after 2034. I can't tell you with certainty. If you had told me what these increases would be in 2020 or 2019, what we would be doing today, I wouldn't believe it. So, we're doing our best. What I want to say about our capital fund is that when money was cheap and we could borrow cheap, we did. Obviously, money is no longer cheap. So we've like I said the first night, I'm really happy about how agile we are, that we can pivot and do planned savings again to avoid the interest costs for a lot of our replacement. So I just wanted to mention that because obviously there are times that we have to, you want to take advantage of low interest money. But when it gets to be high, it's good that we're agile enough that we can change easily into that saving mode. So I'm very proud of that. Because I know the budget committee worked very hard at looking at all of that and making recommendations. So the first thing, if everybody will turn to this, I think it's easier to go along. It folds out, it's a copy of what's up there. Our building facilities program and our municipal building reserve, we put in $150,000 this year. Okay.
Actually, before we get into specifics, may I say something about the capital reserve budget first? Just as an overview, first of all, thank you very much for all the work you and Peg and the department heads for putting this together, because I feel like since way back in Lee Smith's day, we had a good projection out 10 years. And since then, it just has not happened. And it's,
Well, you mean the last 7 years?
well, yes, and it's getting better. It's a lot of work,
It is.
but this is a tool to look out to future years, especially the next couple years, and to see what's coming, and that should help us plan for this year. And one point to illustrate that is last year, we had a projected capital budget expenditure of just over $1 million. And that's for fiscal year 24. And we elected to cut $343,500 from that to keep the overall number down. However, most of that was pushed off to this year. Last year, when we looked at it, we had the 1.1 million projection for 24, but we had a almost $1.5 million projection for this year. So we already had 50% more planned or projected capital needs for this year. And yet we, with the solar farm, putting off half the purchase price of the solar farm, I really didn't think that was a good idea, because this year we have to add that in. It's part of our budget this year. And by kicking things down the road, kicking the can down the road, most of us will be here next year dealing with this. And the town's gonna still have to deal with it. So I really would encourage everyone to make use of the projections that have been made here to look at least the next few years. And, consider that when we're looking at this year's budget, trying to figure out what it is. So again, thank you very much for all the work in putting it together, and let's use the tool.
So our first line item would be municipal building reserve, and we put in $150,000, and that is for the HVAC for this building. I don't know if you've noticed when we've been here at night, it's been a little chilly. So we had essentially an engineer come in and just do some blower door test and evaluation of the system, and it's going to be giving us an RFP to put out to bid shortly. John, Will, and I spent a couple Fridays here with the gentleman to go over. I mean, he's been up in the ceilings. The Public Works Department did a great job of sealing up some problem areas so that they could retest. And what we're trying to do and accomplish this year is there's a lot to accomplish. We're going to have to make some improvements over in the, fire department, with insulating that ceiling, closing up some things. The heat in the bays is going to have to be discussed, but the primary focus this year needs to be from the bay doors going into EMS over. Because we don't have air conditioning during the summer. That's why if you come in, it's a little warm and we have window air conditioners. And the heat isn't always functional either. We have some air handling issues and some air return issues. So all of that has to be looked at and replaced, and we should have an RFP within the next few weeks. If you have any technical questions about that, John Daigle's here. And will, because I will be honest with you, some of it is a little bit above my skill level. So we put in $150,000 for that. Plus we have a bit of a reserve. Like I said, Max did put in a grant, but we're not sure how much from a grant we're going to get. So that's where we are with that, and that's why that request is here. And this has been an ongoing issue for the last 2 to 3 years, so it's not something that we can say, well, we'll put it off another year. We really need to get it done. Because this is the 24/7 area that handles the police and EMS that are here 24/7 in our office. And it will be nice too, because part of that's going to be, we'll be able to isolate, so when we're not here, we're not using as much of the energy to generate heat or cooling, but the 24/7 areas of the building will be zoned separately. And I think it'll be a nice improvement. Because right now it's either hot or cold, but there's no in between.
Questions? I got one. The 102,000 from last year, did we use that up?
No, that was your balance as of
Oh, that's the
2/15,
balance, okay.
correct, so I don't know
So
what
you're
that.
adding another 150 to it.
Yes, I don't know what that full number is going to be. But the other quotes that we've received for something like this were over $200,000, so that's why we put the $150,000 number in there to be safe.
When would this work occur?
Well, once the RFP goes out, I actually had an HVAC company stop in randomly. It probably won't occur until the fall. By the time an RFP goes
But
out,
this coming,
it would be this coming fall. So we're probably not going to have central air in the building. We'll still probably have to use the portable air conditioners, unfortunately. But who knows? Maybe we'll get really lucky. And it's not going to be an easy, from what has been explained to me, there's going to be a lot of stuff that has to come out.
Yep.
And then other stuff go back up. So it's not going to be
Just the lawn installation.
it'll be a little bit of messy work.
Sawdust and plastic.
I don't,
Demolition before construction.
so.
Well said, John?
Yeah, I just 100% agree, and knowing how the business industry is, the timing for those folks, they're booking out till already for October, November. Here we are just getting the ball rolling, so who knows, and getting equipment, could be stuck on a boat somewhere in Baltimore or something, I don't know.
Yeah, we really didn't have much choice,
I know.
and.
Oh, I agree.
Everybody thinks it's easy, it isn't.
No, it's not.
And the ductwork for the air handling system, nobody figures on that. Right, there's a big difference there. Right now, looking into if the police chief would turn around in his room, open up a thing of fentanyl or any kind of drugs like that, it would affect Julie and the other office. We can't have that, you know, we
If they
really
have
can't.
marijuana in the office,
Yeah.
I can smell it in my office, or whatever John's having for lunch, I know that day.
And there's not enough here.
You really make you upset one day, just bring anchovies in.
But
I'd just like to want to add one thing too, a lot of investments that are made by the town don't have a return. I expect that this new air conditioning system will have a return in lower energy costs, energy usage.
It should, because we've already done the blow tests and the work that we've done so far has cut that down by 2/3. Right now, but just what we've done.
And just the air conditioning systems of this vintage, or maybe have energy efficiency rating of maybe 7 or 8. And the newer ones are up around 20. So I expect a big decline in.
and how they
electricity
start
costs.
up. How they start up and that use of energy and how they'll set it up will be significantly different than how it starts up now. And with the purchase of the solar farm, that we're also going to be saving because it will not, we will not be paying what we currently pay for our electricity. So that's the main gist of the municipal building order. And there may be, doors that need to be replaced in that, and also a door. The only other thing that will happen is there'll be a door now. So when you come in, like where you would head to the bathrooms, there'll be a closed door that you will then have to open to go into that side of the building. So, which is a good thing, because that kind of will close off the police and EMS from, the public. We'll have to figure out the public bathroom, but that's, like, somebody explained this as we're trying to eat an elephant and we do that a bite at a time. So our next capital expense is for EMS. And we do have, Chief Booker here if you have any questions. We have started this year, saving for the future too, a little bit. I was trying to keep that, their line a little bit even. And knowing what the expenses are that are coming up for the ambulances, and I know we beat this horse every way we could. But if anybody has any questions about the ambulances, Chief Booker is here.
One thing I just want to reiterate to the group.
If you wouldn't mind, so.
No, I
everybody
just
else
opened
can
up,
hear you.
opened up my book back here, so I have room. One thing I just want to reiterate when it comes to capital, since I took over as chief, is it's more of an ambulance replacement fund as opposed to the equipment and that sort of thing. And by that, it's my goal to save enough money in their life cycle to just replace everything in that ambulance, stretcher, monitor, that sort of thing as part of the spec of the ambulance, as opposed to saving for those things individually and then having a situation where, 10 years later, our monitors are in, beyond their life cycle and have to be replaced anyways. We just out with the old and in with the new. And in doing so, in discussion with Julie, I think I talked about this during the initial budget presentation. We're looking at cutting their life cycle down a little bit. They initially were 10, well, actually they were 12 way back when. Now they're 10, and we're looking more like 8 years of keeping the ambulances because they just end up costing us a ton of money in maintenance in the latter portion of their life. So when you look at that capital improvement plan long-term, that's everything. That's a whole new ambulance with a stretcher, power load system, monitor, so on and so forth. So just bear that in mind.
So how does the life cycle of the equipment compare with 8 years?
It's about the same.
Did it-
Yep, yep.
So that
Actually,
fits
the
pretty-
golden rule is 7 for everything in the medical world. So like for instance, physio control, they can safely service a cardiac monitor for up to 10 years. They've done it, right? So we're just avoiding those costs down the road where suddenly we have to replace a bunch of stuff at once. And with the lease program, it works out well too, because we can just sort of, if something goes wrong, we can just replace it on the spot. But essentially, 7 years is the answer. It's about this, everything medical, they tell us 7 years, so.
Yeah, I have a question about line 36, the Chevy Autotronics.
Yep, sure.
Uh,
I don't have it right in front of me, so.
okay,
Yep.
it becomes a 93 becomes a 2026.
Yep.
But we're gonna spend the money in 2025.
I think we're just putting it aside in 2025. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll be an interest-bearing account then?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're, instead of borrowing, we're saving for.
Gotcha.
Because the truck won't get here until at least then. So,
We haven't got the 2025.
not yet. No. No, well, it's 2024.
Well, 20.
We have one coming this calendar year. I suspect it will be a fiscal year 25 arrival. So, yeah. Hopefully, frankly,
Paid for, we won't have to borrow it.
Correct.
hopefully sooner than later that truck shows up though, because its predecessor is getting tired. So,
So on that ambulance, the 2025.
Yep.
or it's gonna be a 2025. We had 102,000 in the fund, in the balance for that account last year, and we added 200,000. So that's 302,000, but it shows only 201,000.
that's to cover the cost of that arriving truck, correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's the balance of the capital account for that vehicle, but where did the other 100,000 go?
I have no idea where you're.
Yeah,
reading from
yeah.
about.
Well, this is the last year's capital sheet, and we put $200,000 into that account.
You have, Peg, did we actually put 200,000? Is that what we actually adopted?
Budgeted.
Are you adding last year? What's that gonna do with it?
According to the sheet last year, we had $102,212 in that line item as a balance in February, and then we budgeted 200,000 more for fiscal year 2024. So if that went in there,
I don't know what he's looking at, guys, so I have to. Peg.
So at the beginning of our current year right now, his EMS total was 129,000. Then you would put the 200,000 from our current year to get us where we are to project for the 2025. year. If that makes sense. Right, I have the balance at June 23 is 129,000. And then if you add 200,000 and then you have your pluses and minuses for the current year that we're in, that brings your total to February.
So our February yeah,
So I think Peg has to work with Val because I don't know what sheet he has and I don't know if we're talking about what was budgeted.
That's as of February, it's not at the end of the year.
Right.
This
So
fiscal year ends June 30th, but this was at the same time last year, which would have been February. So, yeah,
So are you looking at this figure here?
but it's gonna change, like at the end of June was 129, it changed a little bit, it's 129, then plus your 200. Yes.
What about this?
I go by, it shifts differently.
so we
to
spent
come
some
up.
money on other things in the EMS.
Right, you can spend money out of the capital fund
Yeah,
for the, like, out of the. It's a total,
but it wasn't a lot.
it wasn't a lot,
It wa- I
it
think, we-
wasn't $100,000.
I think we, honestly,
Okay, I'm just,
I think we purchased drug boxes that are gonna last us, hopefully,
I think-
my career.
I don't know, I don't have
Yeah.
that in front of me.
Val's gonna be one else too.
So I'll let Peg explain it to you. I don't know what sheet that was, but
It was the same thing as last year,
That's
but
the
it was
final.
it wasn't the end of the fiscal year. It's because it was
Right.
February.
It's February.
right, so just bear in mind, like, when we give you this is the balance typically in February. When it comes in your book, so she has to work off what the balance actually was at the end of the fiscal year, so there could have been expenditures. From the end of somewhere between February of 2023 and 6/30/2023.
Okay, so I guess my next question is, if we put $200,000 towards the ambulance last year,
But I don't think.
it's not necessarily
Well, that's what it
in the
says.
ambulance account, it's just in the total account, the overall account.
Right, it's overall, it's too much. I don't think we budgeted, that's now.
299 the overall, 201 is. the-
299.
Hey, can you look and see what we budgeted in?
200 even for this current year that we're in, so for 2024. It's 200,000.
So that's where that 200,000.
Right, but I was just wondering why the balance in the ambulance line item account was only 201 instead of 302. Which is what the balance last year plus our appropriation adds up to.
You confused me now, too.
If we just look at line
36.
34.
Okay, so I think what part of the problem is you have to look at the actual total, the subtotal of what it is.
Yeah.
So you're saying,
Saying I thought we had 300,000 budgeted for the ambulance as of last year, the end of last year's meetings. So, and some of that money was spent on other things.
Right.
Other equipment.
Well, I can tell you, we didn't spend $100,000 in capital, so I don't know if there's a,
where did that sheet come from?
Your sheet from the year before, big sheet. last year.
that's last year's big sheet, okay.
As of the end of February.
As of the end of
Correct.
February, that's where I think we're getting.
And there could be some confusion because Julie does a more detailed projection where I have it more concise. I have a more concise version of hers, because I want to make sure the balance for EMS is the balance for EMS. And then they decide how it goes, so you all decide how it goes. So it could just be that.
Well, I think that we have to be, I think if you're gonna bring sheets in, we need to know what sheet is going to be utilized. Because is that from the budget book last year,
This,
or was
I
this from
believe
one of the
this
other meetings?
was passed out at the end of the budget meetings. It was tucked in here. It's not quite the same as this, but this is the book from last year. And EMS equipment reserve. It's the same numbers here. We had 102,000 in the line item for the 2014 Chevy. And then we added 200,000 to it, so I just presumed we'd have 302,000 in that line item for this year, to start with.
Well, I think Peg can probably print you out where the expenditures are.
Okay, the total for the EMS equipment reserve, this whole section, that checks out, so it's not like the money is gone. I just thought the money was earmarked for that particular ambulance. So I'm not saying the money's disappeared anywhere, it's just I'm not an accountant, so.
I know, but I would really appreciate, like, if you have questions about that instead of springing them on us at 6:30 on a night like this, if you could come to us beforehand, that way we can have answers for you that are satisfactory. Because I don't want people watching this meeting or leaving here thinking that there's $100,000 that's just not here.
Right. and I'm
Because
not
that's
saying
kind of
that.
what it felt like.
And I did try and get in and see
Got it.
you twice and you weren't here. And
I know,
I've
well,
been very
sometimes-
busy. so-
sometimes I actually
Yeah, I know.
have
I'm
some
not.
time off.
I-
But I guess the question is if we are looking at this capital big sheet, Val Scope big sheet right here. And use this for example, that I'll use that, since we're talking about the 14 Chevy, 201,250, 524 right now, right?
Yes,
And then you're asking for us to put another 53,000 in next year. in
This,
25.
this,
this, yeah, the upcoming, the budget we're discussing.
Then
tonight,
Be-
yeah.
Which would be roughly 254,000.
Right, and then the equipment line item,
And then, so that'd be that number for that ambulance. So we should not be taking money from that ambulance to cover anything else in EMS, is that what you're saying? We should be doing?
so here's what I think, is we have a line item for EMS. And we try every year to break them down in the light items that you need. For years, we've had this equipment, which is where the physio controls and everything else came out of, which we then turned into an operating expense. So we're using some of that 72 for the purchase of the ambulance too.
okay,
But to your point, John, the short answer is yes. I think we had to get some stuff sort of stabilized, right? Again, I did not spend $100,000 in capital last year. Like, it didn't happen,
I'm
right?
not saying
So,
you did.
right, so no, I know you're not,
but
but
it's still
so-
in the subtotal.
It's still the
Uh,
subtotal,
Right,
so we're
right.
trying to figure out if you
We're-
get this money
right.
allocated for that ambulance and now it's
So
dropped down.
Yeah.
I'll take this and say that I did not move the equipment up because we're not saving for heart monitors and physio controls anymore. Okay, does that make sense to you?
I mean, what's there matches what I had. with
Right.
Another sheet, so. Wow.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. One of the things we did last year was instead of buying this stuff.
correct,
So it was an operating calculation entirely.
correct. It's an operator.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think we're getting, so the line items. Things can move between the line items. It's the subtotal that's the important number.
Right, yeah, you have discretionary authority with that money.
Well, I,
Do what you need to do.
That's essentially my question.
we could move items between the line items. Not, well, we can move money between line items.
Right.
But
In the meantime, we try to put away enough
we
to
try.
purchase a truck at the end of it all, I guess is what the,
So the
Yeah.
$200,000 last year really was $200,000
Correct.
for the ambulance, which is reflected in this balance. I don't know, the 103, that could have been what we were moving around for some of the equipment. I'll have to go back and look. But if I'm not here and somebody has a question, please email me or see Peg, and that way we can have these answers, because now I feel like we need to produce what the expenditure was, so that you guys understand it better, and we'll do a timeline for you.
I think the subtotal covers it, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're,
Okay. Well, I just,
go ahead, Bob.
This is a budget. This is not a financial report.
Right.
So these are guidelines, that's all they are, and we ought to handle it that way, and in that spirit. Not doing an audit of the town book, we have an auditor who does that. So we're just looking at budget numbers. We do have to determine whether or not the amount we've allocated reasonably cover what we have coming next year.
I think we have close to $300,000.
Yes,
In the subtotal.
yes. It's just a
It's a-
particular line item that I didn't
I see.
understand, so.
no, and I understand that
Bill?
Well, I just want people to remember, years ago, we used to have to go through this and we'd see how many cases of oil Johnny had to buy, how many cotton blades, how many boots, traffic
We
stones,
gave a whole bunch of cutting boards.
fire department, how many 4-inch hose. I think Julie tried to just, it's their capital budget, is a total, and if they've got to move some money around, they move money. So.
A couple of questions, I'm looking at the, line item 34, the $201,000. And then every year thereafter, there's $50,000. That suggests a 4-year cycle for the lifetime of an ambulance, not an 8-year.
Well, what's an ambulance cost?
Well, I think that's some of our concern is it continues to go up. It continues to go up.
Actually, it's 7. Like if you're looking at 2025, it goes at 7, and that green delineates the end, so it's $350,000.
So we're budgeting. This $201,000 is not the cost of the ambulance?
So,
How much does an ambulance cost?
250.
250, so.
well, no,
No, more like 305.
more like 305.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, okay,
so
I
in
was
2025,
misinterpreting that.
Okay, so-
201 is the cost.
so in 2025, we're budgeting 53 here. So that, along with some of the equipment reserve, will bring us up to 305. Then next year, we start borrowing, or not borrowing, but saving $50,000 a year.
So here's the deal. I promise you, in no uncertain terms, the ambulances are going to continue to rise in cost significantly. Like everything else is, right? So I mean, we're going to be in the $400,000 range for a middle of the road ambulance is what we buy here in Waldeboro. In a short period of time, unfortunately. So, you know,
That wasn't my question.
Yeah.
Made a mistake in assuming.
Okay.
201. was-
not the cost, correct? Yep,
So
yep.
I anticipated in 2032, the ambulance costing 350,000. So that gives us 7 years to save
That 350.
$350,000.
Derek, that's fully equipped with all of the safety gear, everything out the door turnkey.
To the best of my ability to predict this, yes. That's why we're putting aside more money in a shorter period of time. Because, you know, and the truth is when you get a truck, right? If things like John asked about radios, right? I can move radios around for years, right? That's a pretty significant cost. I mean, between 3 radios and antennas and all that stuff, I mean, you're talking thousands of dollars, right? That stuff I can move around, right? If I have to buy a stretcher, that's a significant cost. If we lease a stretcher or furthermore, even buy one at the end of a life cycle of a truck, because it's stuck into the purchase of the vehicle, I'm saving money, right? I'm not separating it out. It's just one truck goes out, new one comes in, stretcher, power load, radios, that sort of thing. So that is the goal. To have it sort of turnkey, more turnkey than it once was equipment wise, so.
And part of like the 152 is because we need to budget for the ambulance coming 2026, and that gives us 2 years to budget. for the
To split it up,
ambulance.
right, yep.
So that would be a green block on the second 152 for next year.
No, well. Technically, I guess you could block it, but then I move on down to. The next line, that's when I started the green blocks, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Because then you'll see it becomes 2026. So I'm thinking people understand that when I write 2015 Chevy Autotronics becomes a 2026, that was when we know we bought that vehicle.
And, so according to PVC, which is where AEV, we bought the vehicle from. The one that's coming this year, this calendar year, should still be here this calendar year. It'll probably be fiscal year 25, but it's still on schedule to arrive sometime in calendar year 24. If everything goes as planned. So they can't tell us a whole lot still. It's been a very frustrating process sort of along the way. CLC's got a truck ahead of us that they ordered before us. So hopefully we're right on that schedule
They
to
have theirs.
May. Yeah. So it should be here.
Oh, yeah, just one more, and it may be a tender issue, when we bill other towns.
Mhm.
Does our capital expenditures be added into the price that we charge them?
On the interlocal agreement with Jefferson and Friendship, yes. They do have a piece of that pie. Yep.
Yeah, it includes everything from Keystone.
That was the one thing that we didn't have before, was they weren't paying for our operating budget. Which was a tough pill to swallow.
Well, way back, but now, I mean,
Right.
to his question, I mean, yes, they're responsible for a portion of that, of the capital reserve. Yep.
2 years?
Yep.
Bill, can we do that? Okay. That's a good focus. I get concerned when I see that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, the conversations that we've had with Jefferson and Friendship, they get it. They're like, yeah, it's our truck too, sort of, you know, we're going to their area and they don't
Yeah.
seem to balk at the fact that equipment's gonna need to be replaced and some of it is very high dollar and that's just how it is, so.
And we prepared them emotionally for both of these trucks. And I think they'll be happy when, you know, if you look at what we're budgeting is the next 2 years are higher, and then it goes down to a more level
And that's what's gonna happen, right?
service.
With the life of
With
these
the
trucks,
proper
it's gonna, yeah, putting aside early on, it's gonna go up and down, so. They're gonna
Because
get,
like next year, it'll be 269.7, but then it'll go down to 171,450 for a few years, and then, well,
so they're gonna, yeah,
you don't know what, honestly, I don't know what'll happen.
Along those lines, on the revenue side, which we haven't talked about yet, but we have a contribution from the town of Friendship and a contribution from Cushing. Does that fluctuate based on our capital
We
budget?
don't have a,
we don't have an ambulance Cushing.
That's
No,
transfer.
That's transfer station.
Just for a stage.
We're not
Yeah,
talking
excuse
trash
me.
tonight.
Ah, talking about-
Friendship and
Very nice.
Jefferson. But,
Okay.
and Friendship and, yeah, we have Friendship and Jefferson.
All right, so we wanna talk about Cushing? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
We don't want that. Yeah. They actually have a good ambulance service themselves, so. Yeah. For the record, YouTube.
Is everyone all set?
Okay,
Yeah, there it is now. Moving along.
There is an offset. In revenue.
not in the capital revenue though, that's in the operating revenue.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Moving along. Yeah, Sunday River. There's something going on over there for.
Yeah. There is, yeah.
Just like Al Monotron there.
Next, again, is the fire, equipment reserve, and we put 75,000 for engine 3. At the last meeting, I didn't know if anybody had anything else.
Oh, sorry, John.
I know we talked about fire department capital last week, but I just wanna, Bob, you don't mind, Johnny, your crew's doing the maintenance on those trucks?
Yep.
Your feeling on the trucks that we're gonna be straightening out here soon, well, not straightening out, getting, swapping out soon?
More info. They've got more on one draft.
Engine 3 and engine 1, engine 3 obviously being the near term.
Engine 3, that's got that little cat motor in it.
Yep.
Yeah, that motor's in good shape, transmission is good shape, just like brand new. Underneath of it, there's really no rust to speak of, I mean, really isn't. The overall running gear is good. There's only, I think, 36,000 miles on it. Hasn't even been a brake job done to it, so there's nothing really. Nothing, the only one thing is the fuel tank's got a weep hole. And I didn't have the guys fix it, cause it's not a drip, it's just a weep. And, you know, that just spreads out everywhere, you know, and there's no sense to try to fix that, wait till it is a drip. Then we can put stuff in it. But, I mean, yeah, that one there. Matter of fact, the underneath of that one looks better than the other ones.
That's the oldest truck. I'm talking about the oldest one we have.
Yeah, that's the one. It's got, and it's odd. And I couldn't figure this out because the mileage and the hours are running almost the same. You know, 36,000 miles and 3,600 hours, which is odd, you know, in what we do. But finding out about them, it's when they go to fires and about that far, and not just keep running. The only thing I can tell you is what, most mechanics, salesmen and people tell me, for a diesel motor, a small diesel, little tractor, 2,000 hours, you wanna start looking to replace it. Mid-range diesel, you know, 100 horse or so, 4,000 hours. Anything bigger than that, 8 to 10,000. And it doesn't even have 4,000 hours. So, I don't know. If you figure it out, it's 30 some odd years old. It runs. What, 120 hours a year? So it's running, right? I don't know, that's what that is. That's the only thing I can tell you.
Well, that's the point, we nickel and dime these trucks, the maintenance.
Nickel and dime. What nickel and dime, and that one's had the air tank replaced. You know, nothing really major cosmetic stuff. And it's hard because it's the PS. You know, it's hard getting the parts. But you do get them. You know, you just have to deal with them. That truck, I didn't know. I didn't know they were gonna replace it. Well, Bob, did you look it over? That truck? You make sure to look at mine. Mine only quarter the cost. Have you been out there, looked that truck over?
No,
You better, right?
way beyond my pay grade.
Yeah. Well, funny, my
I probably
truck
wouldn't know
down.
what I was doing.
Well, yo, come up, look at mine.
How about the pump side?
That's the part that we would be having issues with. Another thing is that truck's, has an open man cab, so we can't take full crews in it anymore. Because now it's required that everybody be buckled up inside the truck. That half of the seats of that truck are outside. So we can't even take a full crew to a fire. The NFPA standards are just gone way beyond 1990. Pump size on that truck's only 1,000 gallons a minute. Compared to the new ones that we have are 1,500. That truck has 1,000 gallons of water on it. We're asking on the new truck for 16 gallons. So along with that, like I said last week, along with the ladder truck, that would be the equivalent of what we used to run 3 trucks for. We'll be able to run 2.
My biggest concern, as one of the guys that went for the ride last week, is the pump. The suspension and the pump, and I don't know, that's John's department of suspension and stuff, but when you're riding down the road in those damn trucks at 50, 55 mile an hour on some of these roads that we got twisting and turning and up and down and you're on your way to a fire, you don't know what you're gonna see when you get there, and you don't know anything about it, but the last thing in the world we need is to send 2 guys inside of a building and tell them we're gonna give them water, and the goddamn pump quits. And we can't give them water. That's what I worry about on an old truck. And I haven't been at this very long. I know there's some guys on here that have probably done it for a long time, and You just gotta ask them how they feel about the pump.
You know, I know it's all great to have these nice shiny big trucks out there, but do we really need another 6-man, 5-man cab plus the driver truck? Is it gonna fit in the station? Mentioned last week, another truck that's just about as big as that truck you expect out. Is about the size of same size as the ladder truck with the 2,000-gallon tank and,
No, it would be the same size as engine.
okay,
The other
I
truck.
understood it'd be a little bit longer.
So the cab would be the same as the last truck.
But do we really need another 6-man cab truck? So that's just something, just my thought. That's for another day.
Now, I'm just curious, is there any way if the truck chassis is okay to refit new body parts, a pump and a tank?
My research.
Remember I shared with you last week that one of the issues with engine 3 is that kids pass us on their bicycle, get the weight of the bike. You know, it's an old truck. It doesn't move that fast, especially when you pull out of our station. You look north and you look south, and what are you looking at? Big hills. And it takes a long time to get up the hills and that truck, it's just old technology. It's
Yeah.
old. It's tired. Just like Booker said, all these ambulances are getting tired. Well, that truck has served the town well. It's tired. We can go with a smaller cab truck, but then our prime trucks start to become the old trucks. We try to move them down as they get older to do other tasks that aren't, you know, and keep the newer trucks up on the front as our prime attack trucks to respond. And, so yeah, we could move it down and do it. Now our other trucks behind it are getting old as
Well, we're talking about another truck next year or two years down the road, person, another truck. That's, you're talking a couple $1 million, well, today's price.
Like I, said with Julie last week, I think we're much farther out than that.
Well, yeah, I've always felt I ought to put my trust and confidence in our fire chief in terms of what we need. And I hear from John that it's mechanically basically sound. But I'm hearing something else from guys who've ridden on it and who understand that federal laws dictate you sometimes have to do things differently.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I totally agree. Engine 3 needs to go.
Okay.
But what
Now,
we're gonna replace-
that brings me to my next point. And that is, I had hoped that we would have seen during this discussion, some options put on the table that we could talk about, and that hasn't happened yet. But I understand, Paul, that it's gonna happen. You're gonna price out some options that I think meet your needs and your belief, what you think you guys need. I don't want our firemen to walk into a situation that's not safe or travel on something that's not safe. I mean, it's their lives they're putting on the line. And that's where I focus. So I feel that's my responsibility. That is my pay grade. But I do feel we need to have alternatives to look at and to talk about. And I would have hoped that that would have happened by now, but it hasn't. So we'll have a special meeting when we have to figure out what the need is and how best to fill it.
In a related area with John and Bob, both, I live on a dirt road, the road's posted because it's mud. An extra 600 gallons of water is 5,000 pounds or so. 6-man cab instead of a 2-man cab. Is that gonna fit down my dirt road to service my house if it's on fire?
We haven't had any fires yet. In the years I've been here, Billy's been on longer than any of us. We've never had a fire we haven't gotten to in town of Waldeboro, with the exception of Brooks Lane, and that was a blizzard. That had nothing to do with the trucks getting down the road. Had to do with the condition of the snow on the road. Was the
Is this are the newer trucks multi-axle?
No, well, no, we try hard. That's why I'm not recommending anything any larger than that. Because 1,600 gallons is the maximum amount of water I can get on a single axle truck. All of our volunteers, we have very few are commercial driver's licenses. They all operate on their Class C with their EBOC endorsement for it. So I don't recommend that we go to anything any larger with dual axles.
Getting back to your question about the suspension on that truck's fine. You guys are firemen, for me to do a tank, I had to go through and get my class 1, and I also have to get certified tank. It is different, you know, as far as suspension on that. And the other thing is on, you know, we're worried about the water pump and the amount. Paul and I have talked. I got one guy who he turned around, he gets certified to test pumps. He can go to school and do it. Somebody's just gonna say yes. You know, if Paul wants it, just say yes, he'd go. So I can't. You know, we're coming up with stuff. Paul wants a new fire truck, fine. You asked me how the truck was, and I told you, it's the old truck. But you look underneath of it, she looks better than some of the newer trucks.
Well, I was just gonna mention to Mike that a smaller truck with 2 guys in it, but if your house is on fire, do you want 2 guys to show up or 4? Or 6?
I want a truck to show up,
Yep,
a truck with some water.
yeah, but if you got nobody to squirt the water ain't doing you any good, my point.
You got 75,000 this year anyways in the budget for
Right,
the
and
capital.
we'd already went over theirs. And next is the police equipment. And that is the typical vehicle that the budget committee and select board, you know, we just decided several years ago just to budget for the new car. We did not budget one last year, so we're budgeting for one this year. And there is a new computer system, and our share for that for the county would be 15,500.
Then the region.
No, this is just for this year.
We did half last year, half this year.
Yep, sorry about that, Seth.
The equipment for those cruisers, are they getting new equipment such as the ages, as I call them? Or is it, because a lot of these vehicles, you can't just switch out.
Right, so we have $9,471 that we've put in that line item, and that would cover the equipment going into the vehicle.
They've already got the money for that vehicle, that's just the
Right.
equipment to go in.
Well, we've already saved 9471. Now, it could be on a different line item from last year, so you don't hold me to the line item because we may have, when they purchased the last vehicle, we probably had leftover, so we probably moved it to a different line item. But we didn't have to budget 48 because we had that $9,471 left.
That's why it's only 40 instead of 50.
Correct. And again, I don't know what police cars are gonna cost down the line, but I've done my best to try and figure all of that.
Any questions? See, none?
And then we have Public Works.
Well, the man threw that other sheet out. I got more than just 4 pieces of equipment.
I see that.
We answered all those questions.
So what we did is we cleaned up, and there may be a difference between last year's sheet and this year's sheet, because obviously things were bought and things were not. on the sheet. So this is the equipment as it currently exists per the John Daigle. And he and I went over to try to figure out what would we need to be replaced when. And it reflects his wishes.
Well, I have to say, I like to see a contribution for each vehicle every year, because I think that helps us to look at it as a fleet maintenance process and not individual trucks plugged in for different years, because sometimes it's a big truck, sometimes a little truck. It's just easier to plan. So I really like this.
And he'll say that he calls them wheelers. So I tried to make it
What I'm doing.
so people could understand it better, like with an international double axle versus an international 6-wheel single axle. So the wheelers typically are the big trucks.
Yeah, wheelers. Yep. Which have a track.
Well, you know, it
Next
gets a
time.
little confusing for people who don't know trucks.
Those are the ones that go.
And in here, so he has his plan for saving for the future. And then the cutter mulcher is going to be a 3-year process, which I did not realize, so I'll have to add that.
I was gonna say 10 grand for a mower deck.
Well, that would have been my.
For the
that was-
135, that's pretty good.
I misunderstood that, so we're going to have to, and he pointed that out to me, that I misunderstood it, so that would be for 3 years. I'll have to change that on the Val big sheet.
What is that, cutter off?
It's a,
Mulching that, go on the end of an excavator.
You've seen them like
And,
They've done ditches, they'll sit right in the road, just stick that.
And take the brush down?
Yep.
oh yeah,
Just mulches it up. So, just.
I,
So you don't have a guy out there with a chainsaw?
I rent one every year, for a couple weeks. Costs us about 10,000 just to rent one.
What do you think is the life cycle of owning one?
Oh, geez, I don't
That's
know.
how many rocks you use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends how much lead you use into it. I really don't know until we own it.
Yeah.
I know the company I rent from, they've had this one here 5, 6 years. It gets rented out to anybody and everybody. Lasted that long.
Seems like a good investment.
It is, it takes. A lot of issues. That and now, cat bushes have to be trained, certified. Limb cat bushes, yeah, you run a lot of risk in different areas. When you're on top of ledge during cat bushes, you know, people think they don't grow on ledge, well, they don't, but they come out. And the roots go out and they do, that's been working out good for us.
Does this go on a wheeled excavator so you can drive around easy, or
No,
is
this
it
is
track?
a long track one.
Track.
Yeah.
he still keeps that wheeled one.
Is it the wobbly one?
Yeah.
We put in, moving down the line, we put in, for highway construction, Don requested $60,000. And that's $10,000 more than usual, but he had more culverts to do because the road program is bigger too. Next page. Right there. Surface paving program, is 650,000, based on the recommendation of the auditor that we should use some of our fund balance. We put $650,000 in there. And I will have John explain to you what roads and why and how. And if you'll recall, that has been historically where we've taken the rest of the fund.
We try to do 5 miles every year, paved roads. This will be the 3rd year. So to do 15 miles of road, I need $1.5 million. And we don't quite have that in there. But to do 15 miles, that's what I need. That's what I'm figuring the cost is. Well, as long as I keep them hired. Last year I told you I couldn't, that's why I gave you back the money. I've got a full crew right now.
This isn't contracted? The paving is not contracted,
Paving
but you need a
con-
guy
Well, he doesn't do the
supervising the
paving.
operation.
I don't know, we cut the shoulders, ditches, replace the culverts, you know, cut the bushes. Yeah, do all that.
They do everything but the paving.
Yep.
And it does save us a lot of money. If you look at what other towns have paid for roads.
Yep.
That 650,000, it's you almost to 15.
Pretty close to 1.5 million right there.
Yeah, it's not there though.
Curious, you gonna pave the road to the dump?
Yeah,
Oh, right.
That's
Yeah.
the first time I got it.
no, Reef Road. Reef Road. The problem is like the Reef Road,
Just stop at the transfer station.
yeah.
To save that extra money.
Yeah.
Get that.
But you end up running into problems when you put them off. And like, Dump Road and the Reef Road. So it takes me twice the material. to get it paid right. So. But, the reason I want, 1.5 for 15 miles road is I'm figuring that the prices with that amount of pavement. I do, 15,000. I can probably get it laid for $100 a ton.
Better prices that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If not, I think it'll be 120. Probably 125. So that's up to you guys.
125 per
A
ton.
ton, yeah.
So, how much would the overall savings be if you do get the break?
Well, like I said, it'd be $100 a ton. It'll be $25 a ton. On 15,000 ton.
$30,000, $29,000.
Yeah. That'll be savings, yeah.
So
we don't wanna be short though, do
if we appropriate $30,000 more, what difference does that make in total savings?
How many tons are gonna take to 15 miles?
15,000 tons.
So much, $45,000.
So we
More than-
make $15,000.
20,
More than that.
8,000 times 25,
25.
Yeah. Yeah.
37,000. No, wait. 15,000 times 25,
$25 a ton, yep,
300.
Yeah.
375.
yep,
Oh, at 25, right?
Yeah.
I keep saying.
yep.
So
So-
it would be worth
Adding.
getting to.
It would be. And that's why I did turn around and put the bids out early, and I wanted to wait till this meeting. You know, more bulk I can go, cheaper it is.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Where can we get that from?
Thought you'd ask. So. It's more of a question about. What we use to do that. Which would be more of a revenue question, but what we could do. We have $203,000 left over from the Friendship Street School, which is sitting in capital fund balance. But we no longer have a Friendship Street School. What we could do is. Use the Friendship Street School money from the capital fund balance. In capital. And. Put that on for the voters to vote on to reappropriate that paving. And then reduce that 680 number by 203,000, budget that, and that actually. Gets you down and. In a really roundabout way. Helps what you've already increased in other areas, it gets it back down. In your budget.
To piggyback John question, where do we get it from? Johnny, does the town have surplus equipment we could be getting rid of to take money? Use it for?
Yes,
paving?
some, but I don't think you get much for it. Truthful, I mean, up to the garage, there's no fire truck. I got the two pickups. The frames are rotted on it, so we're not gonna get that for it. I've got two older dump trucks. Might be able to get, 4 or 5,000
I
piece
guess the
maybe.
question is, why are we accumulating junk? when We could sell it and get something.
Well,
And I think the nickel was there that.
it's true, but the problem is with junk, one thing, these new trucks are nice and everything else. And, but them suckers break down, they break down more than the other trucks do. Everything's electronics, fuel injectors on there run by oil pressure, this depth stuff. And, I've had new trucks that I've had to pack and take up the old trucks.
But is there vehicles that, I mean, you say like the suspension or the body's rusted, but we could be selling it and somebody want the engine?
Possibly. I'm not too sure about that. And the only reason is this is a town and we don't buy good engines. Everything goes out on bid. So,
I'm just thinking if there's some way to add more money, whether it's 5,000 or 50,000. Money is money.
oh yeah,
And
Yeah.
I didn't think we was in the business as a town to hang on vehicles that aren't being used.
well, it's true. Like I said, I got some up there. I got one up there I like pretty good, but Julie and Abden said they'd put it up.
It had a hole in the floor.
Well, the frame was broke, but it is, wouldn't take a sticker, but I still plowed the roads with it. Yeah,
Well, I guess I'd just like to ask the selectmen to maybe consider somehow moving the surplus equipment that's not being used.
Just need pictures and a description.
yeah. Yeah, and the ones that can't will jump. Do it that way.
Do the newer trucks have DPF and?
Oh, yeah.
DEF?
Oh, yeah,
So they're more expensive to run.
oh, yeah.
Those systems, yeah, no choice.
Yeah, it is.
That would be for a later date though.
Okay.
I think that would be for a select board issue, at a later date.
Just as long as it's noted.
Yep, absolutely.
Look at it.
That'd be on the agenda item. Bam.
Put that on the next agenda.
Put it on the next agenda. I'm not come to the meeting to make sure they talk about it.
Right, so I guess we're gonna be $30,000 short saving for the, get the $375,000.
Ah, you-
savings.
Yeah, if you guys can't come up with an idea, I can. I cut my operating budget by 20,000.
Was what?
My operating budget, I cut that by 20,000. You weren't paying
Oh,
attention?
you already did? Yeah.
You didn't pay attention? Good. How many other ones cut there? What's the matter with you?
All right, so you've got 20, so actually we only had 10 minutes. John?
I appreciate that, John. Every time you come in here, come up to the podium and you say, I've already figured out how to cut. Why don't you start cutting before you come to us? Instead of inflating just to make yourself look good.
Well, no, what it is, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. You guys want the budget by January, my winter's not over with. And I screwed myself before, because I cut my salt. And then I had storms, and I had to live with less salt. I'm not doing it again.
You said North Noble Road.
15 miles road,
But which road you?
North Noblesboro, Reef Road, Mill Street, Horse Corner, Old Augusta, both ends,
Chapel.
and Chapel, Castner, Simon, Burnham, Hulk and Higher.
Back.
No, I'll back up.
Take care of all North, no, North Walboro,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
I'll be definitely-
Yeah.
In future date.
That-
South Hall Road in the future. I think we've come up with a solution on how to come up with that. So, pretty easily, so I like your idea. I think the select board's gotta make a motion to increase it by 30,000. Make it 650, 680 in the capital.
Well, technically, if you're gonna take my suggestion, we'd be reducing that number.
Right. I understand that, but the voters have to vote on it. And we can't guarantee the voters will vote on 200,000. Reappropriate. That's the only concern I have. If they don't,
So
then we're gonna be $200,000 short,
Good.
30,000. Can we ask the voters to return that to the, what do they call it, unallocated funds, But still, either way. But if it doesn't come in, there's still.
So what we could do,
A balance of unallocated.
so what we could
allocated
do
funds
is
that'll
we could
fund that now.
anticipate revenue from the capital fund balance on the revenue side. And then put the 680 in on the expense side. And we can ask the auditor if that would be a way to reappropriate that money. What do you think, Peg?
Well, to anticipate revenue of us, do we have to specify where we think we're gonna get that anticipated? revenue?
It would, well, actually, you have a line item in the budget that is capital fund balance. But we've used it before, prior to my arrival.
That's separate
What I
from,
meant was the unrestricted fund balance. Can we have the voters vote it into the unrestricted fund balance? Which then we could dip into for the extra 30,000 and the 230, that
Well-
$230,000 here.
But then you're using fund balance that we might need in the future. Whereas with the capital fund balance of Friendship Street School, we don't have that school anymore, and it would just be, it wouldn't affect,
Just trying to find an easy way to do it.
it
that's
wouldn't
all.
affect the general fund as much. And it won't affect the mill rate if we do it.
But we have to do that anyway, regardless of whether he needs extra money or not for the roads, because you got money sitting there for Friendship Street School from capital. It's just gonna sit there until eternity, until we ask the voters to move it into
Right,
our regular cap.
so it would just be cleaner, I think, if you did it through the budget process without a separate question. Because you can anticipate capital fund balance, and I'll confirm that. with the auditor. So that way it's in the budget and you're voting for the budget. And then you don't have to worry about it being a second question of what happens if it doesn't then.
So what do you want that number to be for?
680.
680.
680 is fine. I talked myself into it. I talked myself out of it. I think that's,
You're not so confused,
I know, I'm very confusing. I do that.
The whole range of it.
Not enough.
Had a long day legislating, so.
That will be enough, right?
yes.
That'll put him under the 1.5 million.
Yep.
so. All right, would somebody?
I'll make a motion to increase that. How do you want to do the motion? Make it 680
680,000.
versus 650 for the service within the program reserve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And one abstention? And that was 401
All right,
abstention.
gotcha.
We
Okay,
get that resolved.
does the budget committee have to
Yes.
deal with it at this point?
Yep.
Or is that, okay. Do we have a motion from the budget committee to
So
approve that 680,000? Second,
Second that?
Scott? Discussion? All those in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
And one absent.
1 absent.
All right, the next is the solar farm purchase, which was $82,000. The voters did approve this last year, so I don't know how much conversation, unless you have questions specifically about it you want to have.
Anybody else? The only question I have is, what has our maintenance cost been on that since last budget cycle?
So we have not had any maintenance costs on it because technically
Okay, so they're still covering anything that's.
they are still covering,
Yeah.
and before we take ownership, it would be up to date. The nice thing that we do know about is that we have our our local electrician has worked on solar panels before and solar arrays before, so that gives us a little bit of a leg up. We are also currently negotiating the actual sale, and they are going to provide us with a maintenance upgrade, maintenance agreement. One of the things that we did discuss in speaking with that company was potential problems. A lot of the issues that the array has had relate to, Bob, were what are they called?
Optimizers?
Optimizers, which are under warranty, but sometimes you have to wait for a period of time to get them. So they are free essentially, but you have to wait. The cost would be installing them.
How much are they? I'm just curious if we should be ordering a couple just in case, or whatever. Just in case, and have one in shop and get the other one warranted that we're.
Well, these are under warranty.
They are all
Regardless, but if
totally,
it takes a month to get them. You want some hot spares. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, you're not gonna get spares under warranty, though. You're gonna have to buy the spares. I mean,
Yeah.
people typically, when they warranty, they don't give them to.
Warranty, wouldn't they?
No, you buy the spares and then when you turn in the bad one, you'll get. the
Yeah.
warranty.
Right, exactly. If you would have stuff on hand. you need to own
Yeah,
places.
they have them on hand.
Once you go would have their own warranty. You're gonna spend to establish your stock. Right, and that's why I was wondering
Yeah.
what the price was of that, but
I can find out.
just to be ahead of the game, that's all.
Will they give you their maintenance profile for the last 2 years, so you know what they've been doing, so you know what you could anticipate?
I think he would.
We've asked them for a schedule.
Yeah, but I mean,
We
the
know
past
what needs to
history,
be
the last
done,
2 years or
what
so.
needs to be done every single.
Yeah.
The issues we've had in the past have been optimizers.
And how much degradation do you get when an optimizer goes down? Are you losing 25% of your capacity, 50%, 10%?
I think there's one optimizer per pair of panels.
But the thing is, the optimizer technology's changed. I mean, these things were put in 8 years, 6 years ago. So they've changed a lot since then.
Well, just like diesel engines.
The record isn't gonna tell us much. If they tell us what we have to do every.
Right,
make
well, that's what I
sure
mean.
we're
What have they been
optimizing.
doing? And,
Yeah.
so you can anticipate what your expenses might be, because typically solar situations, just like old people, they tend to get more expensive as they get older. I know from experience because I've installed solar and I've lived with solar, so I speak from experience, believe me.
The thing I'm worried about, and thinking about is we have to replace the inverters, because they have a useful life of 10 to 12 years. And that's gonna cost you.
You're gonna find out if at some point you gotta decide whether you're gonna keep a solar farm or you're gonna get rid of it. And that's the other big expense, is getting rid of it.
Well, we've talked about that. Keep the infrastructure and replace the panels with new ones, basically have new solar farms. I don't think we can argue anymore that the glass and the aluminum on those frames doesn't have value. It does. And that value is going to increase going forward.
But maybe,
There's also that little bit of silver in those things. That has value. So they're not worthless. They've got value. And
they do, but not much.
well, and they are developing technologies now to recycle these things. And where they'll be 20 years from now, when we're ready to replace this, it'll be a different world.
Well, all I'm saying is I would just like to see the town do something that wasn't gonna cost us money in 2 or 3 years. You know, I don't wanna, it doesn't make any sense to do an investment that you're gonna go backwards on, you know?
We'll move
Oh,
on.
but Ruben had-
Oh, sorry, Ruben. This is all very interesting conversation. Bob pointed out it's stuff we've gone over. Do any of those points? Are any of those things that would stop us from paying for the other half of the system? Cool. We should have a separate conversation sometime. And we're not keeping all these people here.
Well, we'll do it when we do the fire truck, how's that?
Well, it's already been voted on by the people.
Yeah, it's already passed, I was just wondering at what point.
That was all. I was just.
Sort of lawsuits.
And we're waiting, yeah.
Yes. I guess EDC is-
and we're waiting,
I don't think it's
and we're waiting on that maintenance cost that they're potentially quoting us, so that would also. And we'd have to have a conversation whether that should be in capital or operating. So, you know, hopefully we'll have that, well, I know we'll have it before we sign any agreement, so. For sale.
Is that anything the EDC would see? You're having that conversation now.
They can if they would like,
I'm super curious.
that's
I mean,
up to
it's
the
always
select
willing to
board
take on
to.
that task. I know I'm asking for trouble. You're gonna get.
That would be lovely. I mean, but select board can decide that. Put that on the next agenda, Pam.
EDC,
EDC and they already own there. You should come to that meeting and
I mean, it's not communication, but it's electronics.
it used to live there.
It used to live there.
Yeah, it was part of the solar array committee.
That was mostly, granted, it's outside of this group anyway, that was mostly, is that something I can't look at? So that's all I get to say.
John, can we stick to the budget, please?
Sure. Fair.
Transfer station equipment reserve fund, we have been putting in $10,000 a year for a loader replacement. We have another $35,000 in there for our trailer replacement project. And another $25,000 for the building compactor. We already have 25,000 in there. If you need another $25,000 more, yes. So that's a total of $70,000.
But that's shared between the three towns, or is it just our portion?
Shared.
That'll be shared.
Shared, okay, between the three towns.
Correct. And then the only other thing that we keep adding to is our unemployment compensation reserve fund. And we put $5,000 in there.
Oh, I get that. Cool. Motion on that?
Yes. Got to increase it by $30,000.
All right, so somebody on the select board like to make a motion on the new number for capital projects.
$1,496,000 for capital improvement.
Does that include the fire truck?
75.
No, it doesn't.
No,
No, it
no,
doesn't.
That's- sorry.
I have 1,546.
Yeah,
What was it?
1 million, sorry.
Yep.
1,546,000.
That's it.
50,000 more for the fire equipment and 30,000 more for public works.
thank you.
I move $1,546,000.
Is there a second? Second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I'm gonna abstain.
401. Abstention? Budget committee?
Okay, we have a motion for $1,546,000. Ben,
Taking that.
thank you, Scott. More discussion? All those in favor?
I would.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. Oh, 7, okay. And 1 abstention, 1 absent.
All right. Anybody like the bathroom break? It's always Billy, that's always good. I got 15 extra minutes out of it.
All this meeting back to order. Bill?
I know we got the agenda, but can we go back to social services? But I know Chief Booker is here to talk about lifeline.
Yes.
I think that's the only thing left in that.
Well, no, the other is also left, but we can't do that until we do the capital and. Actually, we done
What's
with
that?
that.
You threw me here.
There's an account called other, which is basically transfers into the general fund from the
Social
other.
services?
No, part of the general fund, there's an account called other. Other financing, it's on page 47. That changes as we change the other fund totals, like the capital fund total. or the transfer station.
Right, but my question was, we haven't done lifeline,
I agree, I had it on I agree.
so I wanted to get that taken care of now, while Chief Booker's still.
Okay, sounds perfect. I'm just saying, I don't wanna forget that one.
30.
35?
Stapled together here.
All right. Good dog, you're back. So what do we have the questions about lifeline?
Well, I mean, we didn't do social services, and it said the Chief Book would like to be part of the discussion, so I'm curious. What I think the next.
They requested 1,288.
So I would simply suggest that you cut it in half. It's based on a capital campaign. They do a capital campaign. You know, not that I would ask them to guarantee us anything, but you know, someone else who in this room who deals with lifeline is Paul. You know, they do a good job. They do a fantastic job. They are a resource that we need. They're useful, but I think in the social services realm, you know, we're not getting any more service than anybody else. Sometimes they're simply not available for a plethora of reasons. They did come and do a training with us last year, which is to not be, you know, slept on. It was huge for them to send a Lifeline helicopter up here for one of our trainings, and I don't. So I initially, when Julie asked me, I said, no, don't give them anything. But I would tell you that I think, you know, if we just cut that in half, that would be my recommendation to all of you folks, because the EMS department deals with them primarily. So I'm familiar with how they operate and that sort of thing. So give them, you know, half of it, and it may be a place where you can kind of, you know, nickels and dimes add up, has Bill would say. So
John?
Well, based on the discussion,
Yeah.
I moved to $650, a little bit more than half of what they're at.
Is there a second? Second. Any more discussion? Questions, but
What are they asking for this money from us for? Does it leverage their fundraising or how?
honestly, I believe it's simply a capital campaign. I think they whenever they send the request out, it says they've been to Waldeboro X number of times since they've started flying. But I don't think it's based on that. I think it's based on population. So, and I'll tell you that, they have a foundation. They have a foundation that is very successful in fundraising and you know, funding their operation. So, you know, I just think when it comes to donating in the social services realm, they're a good asset to us, and I don't have anything bad to say, short of I don't think that, you know, the 6,000 people or just over 5,000 people in Waldeboro are getting anything extra for their portion of the donation. So again, it's obviously pennies on the dime, but it just, I don't think we should just give them everything they ask for. That's all. So.
any more questions from the select board? All those in favor? Zero.
Yeah, the budget committee, we have, what was it, 650? On, so moved. We have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion? My stupid question is, do we need to give them anything? Need to give them anything.
They're the only ones that didn't submit any financial information to us, as far as I know.
Yes, they did not.
We did not get any financial information.
Um. It didn't cost anybody a dime for them to come and train with us.
I'm sure it must have cost that.
Yes. Is it worth $650? Probably. You know, I mean, they're a good organization. They really are. Julie had asked me early on what she felt. You know, I think the reason why she asked me is because my department deals with that obviously more than anybody in the town, right? So, you know, it was my opinion. Actually, we'll joke about this. I initially said, don't give them a thing. And then I walked back over and said, well, it was really nice of them to show up and train with us and nothing but positive things truly to say about what they do. So I would definitely give them something. I think like to Bill's point, you know, things add up over time and maybe just showing, hey, look, we're not gonna, you know, you're doing it based on population and maybe there's, you know, a different way to do it or whatever, is probably a discussion down the road that we won't have with them. They'll send us the same request next year. We'll have the same conversation. But giving them something would certainly be recommended by me, not that I answer for the whole town, but certainly, you know, nothing but positive things to say and they are a good organization. So,
Do they train you every year?
I mean, this was a new kind of thing, but I think that, you know, I think they would, right? And I think maybe that's something that makes it worth our while every year to say. But again, I mean, the truth is, I mean, they land right in our parking lot. I mean, if we do have a situation where we, you know, where the stars align, there's a lot of reasons why they can't fly. I'm not an aviation guy, right? I'm not a flight medic, but I know that the weather plays a huge role in when they can and can't come. But you know, you really can't put a price on it when time is of the essence and they do come, right? So we want to keep them coming, you know. So I think a good faith donation to Life Flight for $650 is certainly a good faith. Hey, we do appreciate you coming to our town when our crews call. So
They do bill for service.
very much so. Very much so. Yeah. It's a very expensive endeavor for any insurance company that covers it. So,
Or private.
even more so.
Like you said, I think fuel for them is somewhere around, like, they don't use regular jet fuel.
I don't know, they turn and burn. It's a pretty potent,
They
you
come
know,
from Portland to here.
Right. And actually,
It's probably gonna cost them that much just to come here.
and actually just
Fuel.
something tangible for that training. They had to move some stuff around to get up here and they came from Sanford. So, you know, they were good to work with. They were communicative, they're responsive. So it's definitely worth something. So whatever the budget committee and select board decides is up to you guys, but definitely worth something. But also worth discussing that they're doing it based on population and they're not coming here any more than they are going anywhere else. That's for sure. So.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Thank you. Have a new number for us?
Sorry, I got segued. I did have one. I was trying to figure out. The school's budget was gonna do.
That's the last expense.
No, Peg will have one more line item for you.
What will that
So
be?
the total social services amount I have is 32,256.
256.
Yeah, 32256.
Okay.
And were we all set? Thinking that?
Yep, that's great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Somebody like to make a motion on that, on our social services. 32,266. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? John, you get a smile on your face for something? Okay, I'm saying. Okay. All those in favor?
Any against? 4-1.
And now Peg, you want us to go to page 47?
I think so. I think that would be better.
That's for other financing issues.
We got another bunch.
Oh, I forgot.
You forgot about us?
I did, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay, do we have a motion for 32,256 for social service agencies? Thank you.
Second that?
Second, thank you. Old reliable Scott. Any more discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed? 1.
Page 47,
47.
other financing issues or issues. That'll change because of what we did in capital.
That's what this is.
So the individual, transfers out, the first, the 536,882, that's transfer out to the station, the transfer station. And we didn't make any changes to the transfer station, so that stays the same.
Okay.
The next one is the transfer out from the general fund to the capital account, and that changed to 1,492,773.
For the fire truck and the PP.
And then the total changed from 1,949,000, that big number.
Yep.
To 2,029,655.
2029.
655.
655.
Yes, please.
Somebody like to make that motion?
Transfer funds, this is not going to affect the assessment.
So, it's our portion of the transfer station. And it's our capital that transfers it from the capital into the general. 75 and the 30 will affect taxes, but we're gonna offset that with the revenue that comes in from the capital fund balance.
All clear?
I'm still trying to figure out what this page means.
So we have to transfer in from the transfer station fund our portion of what it costs us, the town of Waldeboro. So that's reflected in the budget so that you are.
Is this a bond payment that we're making on the transfer station?
No, so the transfer station budget, that's over $1 million
Mhm.
this year. That's Waldeboro's portion of it. That has to be put from the transfer station fund into the general fund. So that taxes can be levied against it.
But the transfer station has a separate accounting. It's a separate account. It has
Separate fund, like it's in your book, it's a separate.
It's not related to the town's general, that's because we have two other towns. in it.
Right.
Okay, so we keep our own general fund for the transfer station. That general fund is what we fund
Okay,
from our,
Waldeboro's share.
Right, that's our share.
okay.
It's Waldeboro's.
so that goes into the transfer station general fund to cover, and that's what that transfer, yeah, is about.
All right.
And the same thing with the capital, we're funding our capital out of capital fund. So we have to put money from the general fund. into Capital fund.
Okay, gotcha.
The transfer station fund and the capital fund. Their revenue total and their expense totals net zero. They're equals, it always equals. And then, so we could look at the detail of the transfer station and the capital. On the revenue side to see the transfer in from the general fund. I know it gets a little wonky.
For the transfer station. So there's the 536, 882.
So you balance the transfer station, you balance your capital account, and then we go through the account in the general fund, and then whatever's not balanced is made up with taxes, the taxation piece.
Very well. Well said. You okay?
It's still a little cloudy. It's getting clearer, but I'm still a little cloudy.
How can we help? There has to be a mechanism for,
Get money from.
from the
general-
transfers,
From the transfer
well,
station.
well, from the town of Waldeboro to the
to the
transfer station.
Yeah,
And from the town of Waldeboro to the capital fund.
okay.
And this is the mechanism that's used. Because we have to have an expense.
Which is 2,029,000.
But it's just moving money around. It is not increasing an assessment anyway. Because those increases have already been detailed further up here.
They've been, those increases
totals.
have been detailed in those funds. This is what moves it into, the general fund has to have a way of moving those funds into fund those funds.
Understood. It doesn't.
But you're not,
Yes,
you're
these,
not doing it
this
twice.
this page does not increase the assessment. The tax assessment.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
these are
It does
numbers we
because
already
you're-
voted on.
When you
The
look at,
numbers we already.
their
voted on.
numbers you already voted.
Here's
That's
the
right.
capital
yeah,
number.
That's, yes.
but it does.
That
because the-
satisfies.
The one
Okay.
fund is Waldeboro related, that's
This is
the general fund.
reserve.
I mean, let's not get into, we're paying for to operate that transfer station.
Okay, let's not get there. You've already voted, this isn't, you're not voting twice on the same thing to increase it twice.
Remember shot collar, yeah. Got it. Oh, you still got it. You're gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I got it. Too late now.
I know.
You're almost hoping. So I moved $2,029,655 for the transfer station.
No.
General fund expenses.
Just for a second, I'll second. Any more discussion? Is anybody's head's gonna explode? All those in favor?
Standing.
And 4-0 and 1 abstention. All right,
Okay,
you'd like to do it now?
have the budget committee vote on it.
That's right.
It's so much fun for the selectmen.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we have $2,029,655 for other financing uses, which is to transfer money to the transfer station budget and the capital budget. Do we have a motion? Thank you, Ruben.
Look at that.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion, questions?
I just wanted to give a total operating, if anyone's interested on their little cheat sheet. You had a total expenses. which was $8,139,525 at the beginning of the process. And the total I have now is $8,306,187. It's not, I don't think it's something you vote on. I just thought you might like the total.
I think that's kind of the number I was looking for.
Say that number again, sorry.
Yep, $8,306,187.
Like to go next.
So
We
I
gotta
think,
vote. I'm sorry. I thought you already voted.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I interrupted.
That's all right.
I thought you guys already voted.
Okay, would everyone like to vote on the budget committee? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
People look excited. Yeah, it's not like that, that's it.
Okay,
so
We
how about
have
we,
done.
so I have a couple of things. I think it's late. And revenue deserves some actual conversation, because we're gonna talk about fund balance. But what I'd like, so if we could do highway and have the warrant discussion. And then have a very brief revenue discussion and come back Tuesday, I think that makes the most sense. Because I don't want to rush decisions. Especially if we're talking about using fund balance to offset taxes. I don't want to have that discussion at 8 o'clock at night. I hope everybody understands that.
we will be down at least one member on Tuesday.
Okay.
You'll be down two, I'll be.
It's
You can always
Thursday.
Weeks.
You can also participate by
Zoom.
Zoom. So if we could go to highway block grant, because that's an easy one. It's highway block grant, it has its own tab,
Okay.
and every year we get, this is something we get from the state. And
Ooh,
it's
it
money
went
that
back
comes
up.
in and money that
Fine.
goes out to the transfer station. So you could vote on both the expense and the revenue at the same time because it equals each other. 86,368. This is good money in, good money out.
It goes to Public Works, not the trans.
Yeah.
It goes to general.
I'll say, what's the? Public works money.
Did I say transfer station?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's almost
Public
8
Works.
o'clock.
Almost 8 o'clock.
Would somebody like to make that motion on the highway block grant?
Move $86,368.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
Nice, it went up again.
All those in favor? 4-0 and 1 abstention. Budget.
Okay, we have $86,368 for highway block grant on the, and we're voting on both the expense and revenue pages at once. 2 for 1 here. We have a motion.
Someone.
Thank you.
Second that.
Scott. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
The warrant discussion, if you'll recall, there's been conversations about what we want to break out of social services and community services. And if we wanted to add, pull out and separate those questions, now would be a good time to have that discussion.
How long is the warrant currently?
That is Pam's question. I think she'll say 58 questions.
50 with all those social and community services, 58 questions.
If we separate them all out? And what is it usually? Has it been lately?
It was 44 last year, I believe, 43, 44.
So we're adding 18% or something.
Good.
Keep in mind of the ordinances too. That's included in that 58.
Sample. How many ordinance change?
I know of.
No, 58 right now.
That includes
That includes those three.
Yeah, right. Second, we're all. And all that, actually. From the budget itself.
Correct.
But we're getting a new machine.
We will have 2 machines dedicated to the local ballot.
What are our choices?
We could leave the warrant as it is and then um, the numbers are voted on as a chunk.
It's chunk for the social services
And the community organization, the service organizations, or you can separate them out.
I've had a few people talk to me and ask me about this. Because they would like, and I see both sides of it, obviously, they could short a warrant, but. And I'm not picking on anyone, if someone, if the social services, A, B, C, D, and E, I'm not gonna name any. And I don't want A, but I want the rest of them.
They want that option.
They want that option. And also, if it fails, we know exactly why it failed. You know what I'm saying? If that one particular organization fails, the whole thing doesn't fail.
What's the history of doing that?
So from what I could tell, the best I could tell. When I was asked this a few years ago. I think I was asked this in 2018. At some point in the 60s, it appeared to change, But I also was told that when you had open town meeting, you voted every line.
Right, exactly.
And that wasn't in the sixties, because I remember going.
Well, no, but I think that
I
question
wasn't
was,
quite born then.
I think that question, that one question was related to one specific organization, but my issue is that from what I could tell, when you voted open town meeting, I think when it went to the referendum, things were combined, probably to make the warrant short.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
seems,
But
yeah,
they
it seems
have-
to me that we, at one point,
No, they did not.
That's the,
They didn't have machines.
That's probably why the warrants were short.
It was also
Right.
hand.
At public
That
town
was
meeting.
open town meeting, but when they went to,
Yeah, referendum.
they counted by hand.
oh, they did.
right,
For a
Right.
big line.
they're relatively new, aren't they? I remember not using.
Before my
Yeah.
time, so.
It seems to me, I'm trying to recall, there was a time when I'm trying to think of the reason why we voted on them as a group. And we put them in as a group.
I think it was because we were getting complaints about the ballot being so long. But
That could
we
be,
didn't have machines we have now.
I don't know if the complaints were from the ballot clerks or from the town
It was
folks.
from people.
well, it wouldn't affect the people, because we still have to check off as many as we did before. It's the machine helps the town.
Can I add that having the second machine, 4 pages versus 5 pages, I don't honestly think it's that big a deal, because we will have those 2 machines. But for 5
Speed
pages
things
versus,
up, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
And it will speed things up.
Just commenting as a resident. It's the only way to know, like John and Bill said, which parts of it are family, right? Like if someone has a specific question about a specific service, it's the only way to know. If they're all up together, how do you know? How do you know for next year, when that same group comes back and asks for the same money, or more money, or less money? How do you know how it went last year, you know? Bill?
I know years ago, but there was conversation about putting it on the tax bill. Leaving them off, and then when people came in and paid their taxes, they could give the library $500. Give the food pantry $300, give Life Flight $200. But then I think the town of Hope did that. But I think they investigated it, or they didn't want to investigate it. That's where it kind of died.
It's like when you do your taxes, you choose whether you want to give $1 to Democrats or Republicans.
Yeah, well, I guarantee you want to know what I do, don't you?
another thing.
I
people
get
are-
$5 still.
Sorry, Jan.
Good.
Have either of those failed since you've been here?
Since I've been here now.
I didn't think it had failed in a,
No,
Yeah, I didn't think that that has been an issue.
A lot of people are, especially in June, are utilizing the absentee ballot and they're really taking it home and reading it over. This is an exact figure, but I think last June we were like 700 absentee voters. With a lot.
No, I do.
You can try it and see how it goes.
That's what we should do. Ruben?
Mike, did you have your hand up?
Now you raised your hand first.
I like more granular data in anything I see, so I like having the individual questions. If I were going to challenge it, my only concern would be for the people that aren't voting absentee, are we concerned that having more work to do will lower total engagement? That's what I want away.
For the first year, they probably won't know, so we kind of, they'll be caught off guard after that. Mike?
Yeah, this budget represents a pretty steep increase. I think people are gonna be looking at items that are not essential town services with the gimlet eye, and I think we ought to give them the opportunity.
I don't think the issue is I'm leaning toward what Ruben was saying. I don't think the issue is how long it takes the ballots to run through. It's how long people are standing in the ballot box. You're 100% right about the absentee. You get time to sit, but for the people that come, and I think they check out, and I don't think we're talking about a massive amount. I know we got the whole nickel of that up to dollars, but I would leave it as is myself.
We're looking at breaking apart a $32,000 line item, and we have some of our line items, like the police is $1.3 million. And is,
And some places vote on a public safety budget that has police, fire and EMS all together.
Yeah.
in it.
I
Yeah.
saw that for the town when I was digging in. That a while ago, they had government services, which had assessing and finance, and it was all grouped here.
and did they break apart their social service agency?
Probably.
I was trying to see if I could get it this way, but I have to go in the vault and pull out the book again.
Well, I guess it's up to the select board, what you guys think.
I'll make a motion that the social service agencies be itemized on the warrant.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
That's also gonna include your community service.
Now, is it just the social?
Yes, for social service.
Oh, that 58 represents both the social services and the community.
That's what I thought.
services, whatever.
Thank you, Pam. I thought that.
Social and community.
Would you like to amend your
Recommend.
motion?
I'll amend it to include people.
Would you like?
Community service.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that? 4 and against, 1 against. Now gets the regular.
You have to vote on,
Well, I guess.
I think it would be good to take the vote.
Think a poll.
okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 absent.
I mean, you can try it, and if it doesn't really show us anything, we can
learn something and go back.
go back the other way.
At least just like the roast.
Just like the cut and roast. So revenue, Peg just gave us an updated number. For expenditures. The $8,306,187.
That was on page 47.
Well, this
was that
was,
figure.
no, this was the,
But that's,
this is the blue sheet, your
Okay.
cheat sheet. I wrote it down.
today,
We have the blue sheet. So that total expenditures at the top went to $8,306,187. Peg, do you have a new variant percent on that?
Yeah, just a second. I have way too many.
Oh, the percentage.
I'm sorry.
That's the, what you left.
So that's with revenue staying at 4,551,207.
Well, no, like, I guess what I'm asking for is the down at the bottom.
I know, but I just want to make sure that. you
Well,
have-
I would add in the 203,000 of revenue from the capital fund. I just didn't know what adding that extra 30,000 did.
I don't have a place to add that in the current setup from the capital fund balance.
Could you put it in a different revenue area and just see what it does? Cause it would come in like. Just pick a revenue line that we can go back and fix.
I can, what I would feel most comfortable with is, and right now we have the 800,000 in utilization of fund balance. If you want me to add the.
Add the 203 to that and see what it does to our property taxes.
Because that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah, I would do that. That sounds like fun.
Fun.
Well, we're adding
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah,
It's-
okay, so then, that would bring us to 13.32%. For property tax. The net change.
And what does it bring the 24 versus 25 down to?
417,547. You're talking about the property tax line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes about a 5.5% difference using the Friendship Street School capital fund balance. Which is going to lead into. You know, we can pour over these revenues, but it leads into the fact that revenues are revenues. We've been reasonably conservative about them. There's not a lot of change in them. The only thing you can really play with is fund balance. And that's a very protracted conversation that I think we really do need to have.
It's a whole meeting.
That's, you know. Abden brought up something today. At 5:15, you know, I love those 5:15 thoughts.
But I didn't do it during the meeting. I don't take credit for not doing it during the meeting.
You didn't do it during the meeting, it's just would have been,
Wow.
would have been better. Would have been better beforehand. So if, I don't know if you want to explain your thought process.
All right, because, no, I asked Julie what our percentage went up, and she said it was like 18%. And she said she had a thought about using the school money for helping reduce that, which brought it down to 13%. Well, we got 120 days of fund balance. And our ordinance says we have to carry between 60 and 90 days. Now, so we're technically at maxed out, we're still 30 days over our fund balance. And I asked Peg what it costs to run the town per day. It's $30,000. So there's $900,000 we got in the reserve, the capital reserve. But our fund balance, we get about roughly around 900,000. It's taking some of that fund balance, and we could actually, and I thought it was gonna be less than this, but I was thinking it was gonna be roughly around 350,000. We was gonna have to make up through taxes. But if we could take 350,000 out of the capital, the fund balance, we'd still have roughly 550 to 500,000 left over in reserve. So that 500,000, we're looking at 16 days above and beyond the 90 days still. Correct. If we took that out, and our taxes would not go up.
So my fear of that is we're using fund balance to sustain the budget. And then next year, what do we do? However, you then pointed out that we've done a really good job of building our fund balance because
Absolutely.
we know that the department heads don't spend their money, all their budgets, and there's not a feeding frenzy at the end of the year. And we're very conservative with our revenue. He would like us to model that. Unfortunately, Peg and I in 45 minutes could not model that.
We also
We-
don't know the school, and the school is the big driver.
School's there.
Looking at
But-
the,
Don't lie.
I look at.
But the
find
problem is,
towns
We have
portion of
no
what it
control over
is,
the school. We
too.
have a control over the town.
Right.
But
the
when you're
schools-
calculating your fund balance, that's part of what your annual appropriations are, is the
But we
county
could
and the
say that
school.
we're fixing the school problem, we're fixing the town problem. School problem is a completely different issue. I mean, that's gonna drive the taxes up. And people need to realize that.
She just wants to make sure that we're accounting for what we need to cover the school budget in the fund balance. What our daily number is.
I got you.
So we just have to, and I see what you're saying too. We just need a little bit more time.
That's fine. That's fine. Like I said,
Like I said, great idea, but 45 minutes, it wasn't enough time. for us to-
sometimes I have brain cramps and I throw them at her and then she gets all flustered. Now, I'll go with Will. Will, don't ask questions.
I, my only hesitation is when spending out of that, it's always to me like pulling out of your savings to cover an overdrawn checking account, and I don't like doing that.
But I
typically.
understand that, but 30 days over what we are.
It's true, but it just,
It's part
it
of
gives,
how it
I
is.
just afraid it gives the wrong impression for 1 year, but then down the road, it's gonna catch up eventually, because you're never gonna,
But like Julie said, you know, we always have departments turn money back in.
but we do now, but that, I don't know how you can
Understand.
guarantee on that every year.
Right.
So I think it just,
If we're at 13% this year and we use that to offset it, so we don't have any increase. Then next year, when we come back in and we have another 13%, does that mean next year we're actually at 26% and everybody's gonna want us to cut our budgets more?
Well, that's the fine line.
I don't wanna kick the can down the road. If it's gonna hurt a little bit this year, I don't want it to have to cut off an arm next year.
yeah, better to be gradually, I mean, it's gonna be, I think it's like a
Well,
Band-Aid
We
to
don't
me.
have to use all of it, but I'd like to use.
Right.
Model a good portion. I mean, we're still over our 90 days, regardless of. Regardless.
We have lots of fun over on this side of the table.
I go with.
Becky, I was here when this policy was written.
Yep.
And there were really good reasons to write this policy. One of them was at one point, we spent it all. At other points, we didn't spend enough. And so this policy was written and this target level was for us. So that we wouldn't go one way or the other way. And if you look, when it talks about when the balance is in excess of the maximum level, amounts in excess of the maximum level shall be recommended to be used to offset the budgetary impact on the mill rate or for other valid purposes which benefit the taxpayers. However, said action should not result in a depletion of unrestricted fund balance below the target level. So
But I'm
this
only-
was written,
I'm only
we
I'm
spent,
only asking for.
No, I know.
Not even a half of it, not even half.
I'm agreeing, but this is
Right.
the policy was written and we spent a very long time on this. It was written so that we would be in the target area, not in the excess and not in the other. Because we had been at that point in both of those categories.
What you're saying is supporting it.
I am,
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm just
I
saying,
know.
I'm just validating that they're only spending half of what.
No,
even what
I
our
agree.
is.
I am saying that that's what this balance, that's what the unrestricted fund balance is for.
Right.
It's not a savings account. And we did run into some of that. It isn't a savings account. That's not its purpose. Its purpose is to help stabilize the taxes. So that's why you can't take a whole lot of it. You have to stay within that target zone. And if we don't stay, we should be in that target zone. If we have too much, we really should be spending it. If we don't have enough, we should not be.
And
spending
that's what the auditor had said.
And that's what
We
the
need to tell
policy,
our-
that's what it says right there.
I don't know which ones who had their hand up
It was John.
Oh, John?
I think I did hear the auditor say that we might wanna look at our fund balance.
Yes.
Figuring, taking some out of that.
But I don't think she said, you know, you may not want to do it all in 1 year.
Right.
Which is
Which is not exaggerating.
Right, it's keeping it within the target range.
One more thing, and we also have the county budget. It's already in. We got that yet, Peg? You seen the county budget?
Yeah, it's about 9%,
9%?
75,000 more than,
Yeah.
How much more?
about 9%,
About 9%. It's,
Not
schools are gonna be about 10%.
about 75,000.
Well, my heart is with Will. But I understand exactly why we go with that policy. I just think we've done this. Absolutely. We've dipped into reserves to pay to keep the mill rate stable. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's its job.
That's
That's
what
what
it's
the
for.
money's
That's
for.
what it is, absolutely. But we do need to have the conversation about how much we dip in.
Right.
And that is where the.
And I'd like to give you our best guesstimate of what we could regenerate from the budget. I just couldn't come up with that 45.
I'm sorry, stirred up a can of worms. but-
No,
Oh.
you're-
No, that's supposed
it's
to be
a
used.
great question. It's just, we need time to model it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean. The whole point, I mean, it's a taxpayer dollars that has funded this. So it should be used to offset taxes, right?
And when we I used some of that fund balance. The reason the fund balance went up was because the paving seemed like the place where we cut, and that was something that benefits the entire community, and, you know, we cut that and cut that and cut that.
But
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, there are gonna be some reductions in the budget next year. But sort of structural, when, we're not gonna be paying for the solar farm next year. That's,
probably won't be
80,
paying that much, we won't
90,000.
be paying that much for tax, for.
Electricity.
We're gonna be $430,000 less for paving,
there'll be less for paving, yes.
because we're gonna be.
Yeah.
The 300.
In the following year, I don't know whether this affects the town budget or not, but the bonds for the water system are gonna be paid off. So there's gonna be. We're not kicking the can down the road because
we're in
there are
good
gonna
shape.
be
We're
some,
really
there's
good
gonna be
shape.
some reductions.
Yeah, looking at the fire
That's the type of stuff.
We are
that-
looking at a fire truck. I
But
agree.
that's the type of stuff that we need to be, that we need to look at, that I just need that little extra time. More than 4 or 5 minutes, probably, if I
We'll give you
heard
an hour.
about this
We'll
at
give you an hour.
9 o'clock this morning.
I was at a public hearing, I was in session.
I
until
understand.
Almost 1, I had a Snickers for lunch, then went right into a 4-hour public hearing, so. Well, yeah, it was over 4 hours.
Yes,
Well,
more
not-
Snickers for supper, huh?
On that note, I'll make a
Couple of
motion,
little things for something.
make a motion to adjourn.
So we're doing 6 o'clock Tuesday night here.
Is that a selectmen's meeting too?
No.
No.
It's a free Tuesday.
Bunch of committees that adjourn first.
We're gonna have one down. Can you attend by Zoom?
Should be able to work at night, so I'll know
You'll
Right.
zoom in.
when I get to New York. I'll-
Would Thursday get everyone here?
Thursday is a problem because it's planning board meeting,
Okay.
and they really need to be in this room to be able to communicate.
And we need to get this done for the warrant, right?
Yeah, by April 14th, 15th.
Have a rush it.
And then it's gonna be foods and everything else, right?
Yes. Who else is gonna be out?
I don't know
Can you,
if John.
Brenda, can you?
Look at that box.
Oh, I'm sure he'll let you come.
I got training in Damarascotta.
Oh.
What do you think? Here or there? Good to be here? Okay, I'll be here.
John will be
Okay.
back by then.
All right, great.
Yeah.
How about it?
Second.
All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no dissent at all.
So